Hello and welcome back. My name is Andrew Coleman, and this is video 5 of the Flow Certified Coach training series. Today, we're going to be looking at Tile 3, the flow friction analysis. And I'm really excited to have Jeff Kissinger with today. He's one of our full-fledged Flow Certified trainers. And I'm going to have Jeff introduce himself on the next screen. Jeff, the mic is yours.
Thank you, Andrew. My name is Jeff Kissinger. I am an FCT, as Andrew said. Very proud to be. It's something that I enjoyed learning very much from Andrew and from his brother Ted, where I learned these techniques and flow itself. And the topic I'm going to discuss today about flow friction analysis is one of my favorite well-oiled wrenches in my toolbox when I use flow. So if we can go on to the next slide. Now, I will talk about the takeaways, but the flow formula itself is vision plus the right people plus the 4D model that equals flow, which equals success. And I'll talk about that because in order to understand the flow friction analysis, you have to first know what that formula is. Because the flow friction analysis itself, you're working that backwards. You're looking at what's the antithesis to flow and how to diagnose when there's friction. Next slide, please.
Perfect.
Now in the 4 box you see before you, you see the individual, team, organization, product. You're going to see the 4 box model throughout many of the tiles here. But where flow friction analysis applies is that where you have friction, for instance, where let's say vision plus the right people plus the 4D model equals flow. Let's say you take out vision. If you remove vision from the flow, you get anarchy. So if you're experiencing anarchy on a team, as an individual, in the organization or product, the first place I would look is to look at, is there a clear vision? And let's say you take out the right people. So where there's right people not there, you get anxiety. You ever been on a project where you don't have the right people and you just feel that anxiety. It's palpable in the room. It's inside you. It definitely affects the team, but it also affects the individuals, which eventually could work its way through the organization or the product. Let's say you remove D1, which is definitions. Let's say you don't have clear definitions. What do you have? You have confusion. So wherever you experience confusion on a team or as an individual, organization, or the product, you're looking at something you need to define. You need to clearly define. You take away the ability to distill down an agreement. If you don't have that distillation, then you have politics. Ever experience politics in what you do? Happens a lot because there is lack of agreement, a distilled agreement. You say you take away the ability to deliver. You ever been on a project where you cannot deliver, you got to go live and it's nothing is going right, then there's chaos. So your inability to deliver, you get chaos. And then finally, if you have, you can't drive the team forward, whether it's driving them through a sprint or driving them through a project or the next thing, then there's division. Now you take all these and you look at them and say, all right, flow, you know what flow is, and now you start to see what these pieces are. Let's give an example. I once had a project I was working on, and I had a team of people with me that were initially excited about this, and we worked really hard. I took them through vision. I worked really hard to clarify a vision, and I got it down to 5 words. I mean, this vision
Excellent.
started out as paragraphs worth of information and got it
As
boiled down to
usual.
5 words. And it really helped it to clarify what we were doing. So we started working on the project. We developed the first sprint, and I taught them how to do Scrum. You know, things like seemed like they were going to. This was in September, and we did the first sprint, and we were doing the daily stand-up meetings and stuff, and everything just kind of felt weird. You know, there was an anxiety in the air. Um, as we were doing this, but I kept, trying to get them through it. I thought maybe it's just the jitters, we tried to get them through a few sprints. We went 6 sprints, which was 12 weeks worth of work, and we didn't get much done at all. And then finally,
Wow.
I get a call from my boss who calls me into the room and he says, "Hey, so and so says that you're not a really good project manager and they don't want you on this project anymore." And I just was like,
What?
"Huh." And I thought about it and I started to realize what happened. There were things that I was doing as a scrum master that weren't scrum master-ish. So for
Mm,
instance, I got on a guy who wasn't delivering on something, and I called him up on behalf of one of the other guys who came to me to get him going. And I said something that I've said to people over the years, but I said, um we're what would I say? I said we're sort of dead in the water here, and I need you to get this thing done. And he took offense to it. Didn't tell me, but he told everybody else. It worked its way up to his boss, to her
oh,
boss,
wow.
all the way back up and all the way back to me in a matter of about a week. And as soon as my boss told me that, I went, okay, I think I know. In that case, what I did was not right, and I was not the right person at that time. I caused that guy anxiety, and he was upset. And there were some other things that were going on with the project. So I contacted the person who was the product owner, and we went out and got some coffee. I didn't drink coffee because I don't drink it, but she drank a lot of it, and she told me lots of things. And as I was listening to her tell me all these things, and I told her what I was thinking, I said, "All right, this is what I'd like to do. I want to take a look at what our processes are. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to have you guys get the process. I'll map everything. I'll bring it back, and that'll be our first sprint. We're going to start over." So I did all that work, did the first sprint, and then we came back to review the sprint. And it was nice, but you could still feel that tension in the air. And then we did a retrospective. And in that retrospective, I got really honest. I said, "Here's what I did wrong." And I told them everything that I believe I did wrong, and I apologized for it. And
That's
that got
awesome.
other people to be honest. And then they got honest about what they were doing. And because one of the things that was happening, we'd go have these daily stand-ups and people weren't showing up for them.
Oh, wow.
It was sporadic. And then when we had to do the actual, product review, or the doing a sprint review, and there was not a whole lot there. What was happening is they did not have content. This was for a website.
Oh,
They didn't have content, and they were, I said, "Look, let's just wipe all that away." And as everybody went around, you could feel the team starting to gel together. And what you had there is we had a clear vision, but what we also started to feel, there was some comfort there. Some of that anxiety dropped because having the right people, it's a matter of perception amongst the team itself. You may be the right person, but if someone doesn't think you're the right person, that causes anxiety in them.
exactly.
So what happened is the anxiety started to go away. And then I started to say, okay, well, let's start to define, because there's some confusion here. Let's start to define what it is we want to do. What is the next sprint? Let's take a look. I got up there. I said, we took the product board, we groomed it with the product owner in the room, and said, what is the most important thing on here? And we moved it to the right part of the board, and we defined what those features were. We defined what those tasks were. And then we started it. We did a 2-week sprint. We ended up doing everything that we had started out to do in September. We started in January.
Oh,
So
wow.
after 3 months, nothing really happened. But from January and for 6 weeks that followed, we completed the first major product increment
Oh,
in
that's
six
really
weeks.
cool.
And what happened is we defined what it was, and the politics that we had amongst each other, because there was a lot of disagreement, that melted away once we defined what things were and we put rules around what it is we're going to do. And then we were able to deliver, and that eliminated the chaos. And then from there, our ability for each sprint, each successive sprint, the division was eliminated, all but
Yep.
eliminated. And then
Yep.
we started on another piece of the product, and we finished that in 6 weeks. Then we started another piece,
Yeah.
and it was starting to roll. What was happening is we were flowing.
Yeah.
Everything
Let's,
was moving forward. Everything was happening because we took that energy, that ability that brings our people together to coalesce and to work on something together, to become of one mind and
yeah.
to have a clear vision and to enjoy. And some of the one person on the team actually dropped off the team because
Oh,
I think
wow.
they realized they were not the right person for what they were doing. And the
Okay.
product owner found them something else. Not that they didn't know how to do things, but I think they didn't think they were right for it. And that started to clear up some of that too. And we were working well together. People showed up for those stand-up meetings. People came prepared for the sprint review meetings. They were able to demonstrate something. We did thumbs up or thumbs down, or thumbs in the middle. But we were able to work together as a team. And that's where, when you remove that friction from what's going on a team, it works. But what was also happening is the individual flow was happening better too, at least amongst ourselves. And when we were able to complete these pieces, those pieces went into the organization, and the organization were able to consume what was there. They were able to comment on the work that was being done, because this was all like right on the front end of the website and structuring how that was going to be. And the product itself was getting better. And it was something that would have to evolve. And the thing with
Yeah.
any type of technology, you're always going to have to evolve this thing. So it works its way back down into the individual and the team to have to develop and work this stuff through.
Yeah. What's really cool about this example that you shared is that your transparency created trust.
Yes.
In that retrospective, that's just brilliant.
And I'm a big believer in retrospectives. It's
Yeah.
something that it gives you an opportunity to correct your course. It
Yep.
gives you an opportunity to learn, because technically we could be doing things well, but it doesn't matter because we're human.
Yeah.
You know, the
Exactly.
human part of it,
Yeah.
it's only, you can only put that off so long. You can only push that stuff down too long before it starts to creep out the sides of your ears and your eyes and
Yeah.
everything. And it becomes something that you can't get rid of until you deal with it. And it
Mhm.
has to be faced. And I believe in the power of a retrospective to do that. And it's a great opportunity. I think as a retrospective tool, a flow friction analysis is an essential. It
Oh
must
yeah.
be there. It's a great way to it's a diagnostic tool. It allows you to diagnose what's going on, and it gives you, and if you take a look at each one of those steps along the way, how do you deal with
Mhm.
anarchy? You got to clarify the vision. How do you clarify the vision? It's all in these materials that's being
Yeah.
taught. Same with the right people, same with definitions, with distilling agreements, with being able to deliver, and the ability to drive things forward, and it cycles through the model. But this is, if there's anything clogging up the flow of what it is you're doing, look to this model.
Yeah.
This flow friction analysis is essential.
And for the retrospectives, as you were sharing this, and it's just utterly brilliant to use the friction analysis in the retrospectives, because it's another way to look at what did we do well, what
Hmm.
can we improve, and what did we learn.
Yes.
And as we go through that every time, to me, it's just like uh, yourself and other of the coaches and trainers have used the friction analysis often as retrospective tools. And so it's just so powerful in a retrospective to go through this with the team members. It's just, it really, it helps create that culture of trust, and it helps you guys have the right conversations, even if that conversation is a tough conversation.
Yes, it definitely focuses the conversation, and it doesn't waste time if used properly. And what I also find is, if you do it well enough, other people, and you teach this to other people on the team, they can help identify things, because it'll help them point out my blind spots, because
Hmm.
everybody's got blind spots. And if they are able to use the same tools I'm using, and we're working together and we have a common purpose, then they can use this to help clarify where I may be not clear.
Yeah, yeah, excellent, really good, excellent example. This was awesome.
So to recap, so remember, the flow formula itself is vision plus the right people plus the 4D model, and that does equal flow. And if you don't have vision, you will have anarchy. Believe me. If you have the wrong people, you will feel anxiety, and there'll be anxiety amongst the team, the individuals, even the organization. Um, and there'll be issues with product. There'll be issues. There's so many things that come out of this. If you have the wrong definitions, you have confusion. If there's no distilled agreement, and distilled being a very key word here, you can have agreement, but it could be a very tacit agreement, tepid agreement, depending on who you're dealing with.
Yeah,
But there has to be a distilled, this is what we're doing, and everybody buys in, and that helps connect that piece. If you're not able to deliver on what it is you're doing, there will be chaos. And if you're experiencing chaos, look at your ability to deliver. And what's really interesting is, let's say you have the inability to deliver, but that's not it. You have to go back and work your way up. Oh, if I don't have the ability to deliver, is it because there's politics? And there could
mhm,
be, and very likely there is. Um,
yeah,
and if there's politics, is there not clear definitions because you can work your way back up.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, what my experience has been, if I'm at a place where I'm able to deliver, there has been some fracture or some clog, I should say, when in terms of friction, and one or more of the things working my way up,
Yeah.
work my way back up. So it's good to know that this can go backwards or forwards, and sometimes a little bit sideways, in terms of degree of, okay, let's say our politics are, we have some political things, but we have to look at the scope of it. What is causing it, and that's where definitions come back in.
Yeah.
Do you have the right people in the room, and so on. And then the ability to drive forward. If you have division, it's like, what's keeping us from driving forward? If you had a, let's say you deliver on something, but we're not driving forward because there's division, which could relate back to politics, which relates back to definitions oftentimes.
Yeah.
So um, I explained in this example the interactions, but you can use this tool anywhere, anytime. I use it with myself. I use it with my family members. I use it at work. I
Yeah.
use it in my everyday life. If I'm experiencing any of these things that are brought up in the flow friction analysis, I know where to look. And
Yeah.
oftentimes, it's the biggest problem is identifying what the problem is. And then once you know what the problem is, then you know the tools to deal with it. And it's a matter of which tools do I want to use in which order in order to deal with it. So um, thank you very much. It was a joy talking about this, my favorite tool in the whole set of tools with Flow. This is one that you can use again and again and again. I promise you it will not let you down.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. I really appreciate it. And just for the listeners and the people looking at this video, Jeff is, in my opinion, one of the best people I've ever seen using the flow friction analysis in all four boxes with himself, with his team, with the product owners and the program managers, and even with the portfolio level on up to the executives. Uh, Jeff does a really fantastic job of using what we feel is probably one of the most powerful tools that we have in the flow toolbox. So thanks again, Jeff, and look forward to having you in the next video real soon. Thanks.
Thank you, Andrew.